Jay Coulter and Chris Versace do not own any interest in the companies that they interview at the time of the recording or 30 days after the initial release of the show.
Thanks for tuning in to this episode of the Investment Spotlight series from Resilient Advisor. My name is Jay Coulter, and my partner in this venture is Chris Versace, the Chief Investment Officer at Tematica Research. In this interview, we spoke with Rob Anson, who's the CEO and Chairman of the Board at Loop Insights. Chris, what did you learn from this interview?
You know, it's a great question because there was so much going on in this interview that I think when I was doing my homework on Loop to get ready for it, I had a variety of different questions. And the way that Rob broke the business down and gave concrete examples to not only how Loop is doing what they're doing, but how integral Fobi is to that, I think was extremely helpful. But the other side of it though, is the various different revenue streams. So often, when an investor looks at a company, it's very like, this is what we do, this is how we make money. But the value that's afforded by Loop, whether it's to its customers, the end users, or its customers, as well as the opportunity to utilize the collective data into other potential revenue streams. Look, I love companies that can double dip, triple dip on something. I think this is probably one of the more fascinating aspects of Loop. The other thing, though, Jay, is how they're able to help actually reopen the economy as a result of the pandemic with contact tracing. That, I think, is a sleeper hit that will actually pay dividends for them down the road. Easy to win a customer, help them reopen as a result of the pandemic, but that allows them to showcase what they can really do for their business. I think the coming quarters are going to be very interesting ones to watch at Loop.
Yeah, and this was the second interview we've done this quarter where data is a big part of the value proposition for the company.
Absolutely.
Also, this company was new to me when it was proposed for the show. Looking at the website, I personally had a hard time figuring out exactly what they do, and it was very clear over the course of the interview exactly what they do and how they're going to make money. You and Rob did a great job going back and forth, breaking that apart. And here's our interview with Rob Anson of Loop Insights. Loop Insights has been named the #1 technology company of 2021 by the TSX Venture by TMX Group, following Loop's most successful year in its history. Joining Chris and I for this interview is CEO and Chairman of the Board at Loop Insights, Rob Anson. Rob, thanks for joining us.
Guys, my pleasure. Thanks for having me on today.
So for investors who might be watching this interview, tell us, where does your company trade and what are the symbols?
Yeah, we trade on OTC under RACMF. I also trade on TSX Venture under MTRX.
Excellent. I'm going to read something from your website to get us started. Loop Insights is a Vancouver-based Internet of Things, IoT, technology company that delivers transformative artificial intelligence, automated marketing, contact tracing, and contactless solutions to the brick and mortar space. Rob, break that down for me like I'm a 15-year-old.
And Rob, if you can, try not to use buzzwords. Just try to keep it really simple.
Sure. Sounds good. So Loop Insights, as we mentioned, is an IoT and data company. The biggest challenge in the world of big data today is being able to unlock that data. Loop brings real-time computing capabilities to the bricks and mortar physical location space.
Now, let's talk about how you do that, because when we kind of read up on the website, there's a number of different components that to go into, I think what I've started to call, Doug, Loop's Loop, effectively doing what it does. And for people who are listening, I suggest you take a look at the company's investor deck, because there's a wonderful page in there that pulls together some of the things that we're going to talk about, which would be Loop Cloud, Fobi, Smarttap, and the mobile wallet Pass. So if you could explain how all those interact together, then I have a follow-up question or two.
Yeah, for sure. So when we look at it all started with Fobi. The challenge today is a lot of it in retail is you're seeing is going from edge to cloud, as they call it. And that's what our IoT device, it simply plugs into any point of sale retail environment. The minute it's plugged in, we capture 100% of each and every transaction. and payment, whether that's cash, crypto, as we see nowadays with Bitcoin and other digital currencies, credit card, debit card, whatnot. We take all of that data, we ingest that into our cloud. We're supported and partner with AWS, which gives us tremendous cloud computing capabilities. But where we get really finite here and granular is on the down path. Real time, hundreds of a second, we're able to analyze the transaction. So we see the SKU data, the loyalty information, the total goods, the associated brands that make up that basket. And then we push down to our platform through digital receipting, whether it's in app or in wallet or even on the physical paper, the receipt, promotions, offers, corporate messaging that's truly relevant to that each consumer that goes through the till.
So you're getting effectively the 411 on every transaction that's occurring for that particular retailer, no matter what the SKU is, no matter how they're paying, what have you. You have all that information, and I imagine too that you probably have some type of customer profile, or at least some type of basic demographic information as well.
Yes, for sure. It's all about, as we said, personalization nowadays. Having a unique, consistent ID and being able to associate frequency of spend, visitation, gross margin value, all of these particular items is what we deliver. In the point of retail today and enterprise solutions, where we kind of transform and evolve the space is through the power of real-time business intelligence applications. Real-time today is accepted as end of day. Without real-time capabilities, there's no way to segment data. There's no way to push personalized relevant promotions based on user or that transaction. And that's what we bring to the table.
Okay, so just a couple of questions on the loop, if you will. Talk about Smarttap, because that's the one thing that you didn't mention. And then I have a question on Mobile Wallet Pass.
Yeah, so Smarttap was something that we established going back a good 18 months now. And as I mentioned there, it's about a unique, consistent ID. As the world is evolving and going mobile, that was our goal. We partner with Apple and Google with their Google and Apple VAS, which is tied to the native wallet of every Android and iOS phone today. Where I look at it is the biggest challenge is app adoption. We all know that forever. I need another app in my phone like a hole in the head. So being built into the wallet gives it that convenience, gives it that experience and ease of use. There's no drain on battery through Bluetooth and positioning and whatnot. It's all NFC, it's all bank level security. And if you look at all the mobile payment data over the last 2 to 3 years, it's quite staggering the numbers of decline here on traditional payment methods on debit and credit and cash. The user data associated to the mobile wallet is completely trending in the right direction. And that's where we look to align. It's all about, we talk about venue management. It's providing one integrated system that enables us to transact and interact across channel, they call it.
So does that, I just want to understand this because for us, one of the products that we have is a cybersecurity and data privacy index. So I'm fascinated by the ability for you guys to have the mobile wallet, giving data, analyzing data the way you are, giving real-time engagement data to your client. But what about privacy for the user?
That's a great question, and that's why we went this path, because all government, as we're going to start to see here in the next 3 years, about digital ID and digital wallet. And that's why, is because it's all associated to user privacy and protection. So we don't see that it's Rob Anson, it's a hashed ID that's fully encrypted. And that's what for us, it's all about data security and privacy. And that's the power of the digital wallet and digital ID.
Right. That was what I was going to say is, are you able to do that because you're tucked inside the wallet and that those safety measures or privacy measures are already built in?
Yeah, 100%. We take the best of, we talk about Apple and Google. We marry that with obviously our own processes around the data. and then mold that and bolt that onto AWS. So you've got S3 security, it's all GDPR compliant, and it's the way of the future.
Okay. And when we look at this technology loop that you have, which effectively is your crown jewel, right? Talk to me about how much is proprietary, what type of patents you have around protecting it, that sort of thing.
Yeah, we have various patents filed to date around our Fobi device, around our digital wallet pass technology. Some of them are in the process of being published. Some of them we've just filed a matter of a few months ago. So I can't get too granular around that. But yes, it is proprietary technology that we've developed. That's what the interest was when we brought this to Apple and Google. You're combining, a boarding pass is something everyone's familiar with when we talk about a wallet pass, right? It's a static event, if you will. When you plug in our capabilities, we take the wallet pass now, becomes a dynamic engagement platform. It's based upon that user. It's based upon location, proximity, and of course, event driven. So for us, that's really the power of Loop is we take static and create dynamic engagement.
So Rob, if you could, I mean, walk me through an example of that. And to be fair, you guys are serving a bunch of different markets. We touched on brick and mortar. There's sports and entertainment. Before we started recording, you mentioned what you're doing in Las Vegas, and I encourage you to share that. But you've also got some telecom partnerships. You've done some stuff with casino and gaming, and you've even done some stuff with some companies in the cannabis space. So if you could just pick one and then walk us through how it would work and the type of information you would be giving to the customer, and then the type of benefit that the consumer, would be seeing.
Yeah, for sure. So let's start with why I'm down here in Las Vegas. Or that we've got the NCAA men's and women's Big West tournament. We were hired to be the venue management platform. So as an athlete, let's use that as the example. I would receive an email through the CRM, Salesforce, HubSpot, whatever they use. I simply download the pass. I enter the information, data fields that are asked, first name, last name, email or cell phone typically. That then is automatically generated into my wallet, my native wallet that sits in my phone. So I've got my ticketing credentials built into that as part of the tournament down here and the protocols. There is rapid testing on a daily basis of the athletes. So we've integrated with the LIMS providers, the ability to now implement and embed that information into the digital wallet as well. So we talk about, access and entry points for ticketing, or now we see these various modalities that are built out around screening, around testing. Now, of course, we've got vaccination, right? So all of these things, we look at this as how do we encompass this all into an easy, seamless guest customer experience? It's embedding that into the native wallet. And that's what we've done here. So it's simply tap of the phone with NFC, just like you pay with a debit card or credit card. One tap and go. Now I've got all the access approvals. I've got all of the date, timestamp, location, and that's all permission-based access that's given to the venue operator in form of an analytics and insights platform. Now for the fan, obviously, we interject. If you saw our WBC event that we did a couple weeks back, we implemented a fight pass, and we had in there DAZN streaming. We had in there, the engagement piece around who's going to win the fight, make your vote. You got sports betting, so many different things that we can build into the wallet pass because it's truly a gateway. A lot of these organizations have various apps. We create that path between in-app experience and web-based.
So if I'm at an event, could you even work in concessions and credit card payments, that sort of thing?
Yeah, for sure. We've got two of the largest, of course, mobile POS partners there are to date with full integrations. It's kind of the kind of magic, if you will, of Loop is about our ability to connect all these interoperable data points, whether that's from a health and safety perspective, to your point, whether that's a food and beverage, in-seat ordering, contactless payments, event management, parking, merchandising. All of these various silos are now built into one insights portal. and we provide that full connectivity to understanding. And when we look at the challenge of customer lifetime value, it's always been associated ticketing. Rob's been a ticket holder for 12 years, section 112, seats 2 and 3. He spent 212 grand. That's the value of Rob. We now provide understanding of what does Rob mean from a merchandising perspective, a food and beverage, marketing, ticketing, our e-com, whatever that may be, our team stores. We give that granularity and visibility of data associated to the user. Obviously, from a user perspective, they get the benefit now of personalized promotions and messaging and offers. If I know that you're in the mall of my customer of a telecom that we work with, for example, I understand where you go outside of the walls within the mall. It's a lot more appealing to you to receive promotions of like interest to you, to know that Indigo Chapter, Starbucks, whatever it may be, instead of giving you the same thing over and over and over. That's where the world is trying to get to, personalized engagement. So that's our focus of what we bring.
So as Jay knows, I'm a little bit of a wise guy. Since you're up in Vancouver, and if I was at a stadium, would you be able to recognize and push a coupon for poutine for me?
Poutine, that's a good one. I like that. Yes, in fact, if they do have that for sure, and if that's something that you purchased before, most definitely. The wallet pass isn't used to spam people. As we said, it's used for convenience. It's pulled right to the lock screen, which is key. You're not fumbling around for various apps. So it's all about speed, convenience. Right now, of course, as you can appreciate, in the world of reopening travel and commerce, it's all about automation, right? Traveling from Vancouver, Canada, down to Las Vegas was a huge challenge. Obviously, because of the COVID need requirements, the quarantine now coming back, at the airport for the same document probably 15 times, right? I had to stand in line, the flights were all delayed. Simple tap, connected to a boarding pass, connected to the COVID testing information, and you're in the door, right? This is that easy.
So Rob, let me just walk us back a second because
Sure.
you talked about personalized engagement. And what got me thinking then is that you must have for each, I guess, person or each client, I guess, a growing library that becomes increasingly refined. So you know what to push to people. More importantly, as you said, what not to push to people.
Yes, for sure. And that's very, very important. That's a good point. Because it's not just about the individual. Is when we're looking at artificial intelligence, it's about training the machine. So even though I might not know that it's Rob Anson at the till, I know that the other 1.25 million purchases that had this basket composition in it is associated to that relevant promotion. When we start to look at a lot of these social media opportunities now, building these, lookalike audience, as they call them, right, is all about understanding and action of the data. What happened in the past in historicals is now brought to the future with artificial intelligence. And that's really the key.
Okay, so let's shift gears. And actually, before we do, I have one other question. You gave us the example of where you are now, but talk to us a little bit about the 20-store pilot that you did with Vend, right? What were the learnings for Loop, but more importantly, what were the insights that Vend was able to get as a result of the pilot? To the extent you can.
Yeah, Vend's a great example, and it's really the franchise model is another challenge, right? It's about connected assets. It's about reporting, of course. Vend, I can share one of the key ones from them, obviously, with one of their franchise groups is they have a list of products that have to be consistent and approved. We found hundreds of thousands of dollars that were part of that sales through their network that weren't registered. So it's a lot about compliance, of course. It's a lot about security, integrity of their business model and their business practices. But at the end of it, it's the same side. It's the granular insights. It's the gender demographic. I mean, point of sale companies do this. They do a great job of telling you inventory. How much did Rob sell at the end of the day? What were those top selling items and stuff? Where we come into play and plug in and support that is around the micro trends. They've nailed the macro. Where we come in, it's all about the micro trends, right? Where we look at the gender information. What are the top 100 selling items for, males, females, time of day, associated pairings, online and in store. So connecting e-com to the physical location data is another capability that we have that sets us, in a very strong position, a point of differentiation for sure.
Okay, I have a follow-up on that, but I want to save it because it's going to tie into what I want to talk about next, which is, Rob, how does Loop make money, right? What's their revenue business? Because you attack these different verticals, and I imagine they each have different solutions, but you have again, I apologize, the loop that you have. So are there different revenue opportunities in the different verticals?
Yeah, most definitely there are. As you see, we are a SaaS company first and foremost. So I'll give example of a retailer. When we look at an implementation, we typically charge $50 per point of sale per month. That includes the Fobi device. That includes the onboarding of the data. That's that. Go ahead.
So when you say point of sale, if I walk into, just for example, a Target, and there are 10 registers, each one is an individual POS, correct?
100%.
Okay.
Yeah. So you got 10 registers. We're plugging in 10 Fobi devices. We're taking all that data up to our cloud. Then of course, where we look at it, where it gets very interesting from Loop, from a revenue monetization standpoint, is on the CPG brands and activations, both in store and online. Impression, of course, as you're well aware with, but on the redemption side, because we have access to each and every transaction, we now understand that Rob was giving a promotion at Target store 204 in Raleigh, North Carolina. He's bought that program and that activation and these other 15 items in his cart, and this is what it meant from an ROI and attribution standpoint on your marketing dollars. So that's extremely compelling. We have, in case of the wallet pass, we have a cost per pass that's issued, and then a managed service based upon what that looks like as far as, various integrations and seats that sit connected to it. And then as you've seen lately, we have very significant licensing models as well, that it range from 250,000 up to typically 2.5 million. So we've got, multifaceted revenue opportunities. The key here, early stages for us, was the IoT device Fobi. It's agnostic. So it doesn't matter what point of sale system, what receipt printer, what the peripherals are that are part of that ecosystem. We power that up. As you see here and through your due diligence, we're also vertically agnostic. We're in things from pets, hospitality, casino gaming, sports entertainment, cannabis, CBD, on and on and on. So for us, it was about proving the application and the value. Now, as we unfold into 2021 in the latter half here, it's about turning these pilots now into full-blown revenue contracts and rolling out thousands upon thousands of Fobi device and hundreds of thousands and millions of wallet passes.
So kind of with that licensing component that you're talking about, I would think that is that centering in on the data that you're collecting?
Well, two parts. Yes, data is of course one piece of that from the monetization capabilities that we bring, but also too, understandably, is we do have a multitude of products from our Engage platform, from our Insights and Business Intelligence platform, our IoT devices. Those are kind of rolled up and customized based upon the tools in our box.
So you're providing each customer with engagement data, but what I'm wondering is there a play to be had for rolling up the aggregate data and selling?
Yes, great one. So that's your letting the cat out of the bag here, as they say. It's all about the data aggregation.
Right.
The challenge today, why there's companies like Nielsen and RI and Numerator and others, their biggest challenge to date is the independent, fragmented retail market. So what that means is the mom and pops, right? Costco's got all the Costco data there is. Walmart's got their data. They don't have any insight and access to the, the 1 to 50 store operator, right? And that's what we provide. That's why we created Fobi. Plugs into any interface, takes all of these things as you see here, and collects into the cloud. It's all about data aggregation. It's all about market data at that hyper local, regional, national level. And the data piece here in late 2021 will become even more prominent with some of our business development as well as technical development applications we're releasing.
And some of the avenues that you guys target from a business perspective, retail, stadiums, that sort of thing, those were all dealt a huge blow almost a year ago as we're recording this. As you're talking with companies and they eye getting reopened, right? As the people get vaccinated from COVID, are you seeing that they are really eyeing these new technology solutions? Excuse me. In other words, they're excited that Rob and Loop are showing up because of what the things they'll be able to do, rather than it's kind of a tough sale because they're so busy trying to reopen.
That's a great question. You're right on all fronts. I mean, we got approached. It was, can you help us safely reopen the facility? And that's where the whole venue tracing and all this COVID stuff came into play. But really what it's done here is it's really taught the consumer, if you will, how to utilize their mobile phone. It's really about digital transformation here. And it's been very exciting for us, of course, to witness this as we provide so many contactless solutions. At the end of the day, all of these great new pieces that everyone's had to bring on board has just created more need for that interoperable data connectivity capability. So it starts with data. It always ends with data. Unfortunately for us, is we've had the agility to develop some of these interesting aspects to enable a safe reopen, to enable an economic recovery. And then as we look now, it's all about the next evolution of fan engagement, consumer loyalty. These are other value add pieces that we're bringing on. And people at the end of the day, they're really after one solution. I mean, that's the problem and challenge is you've got 17 different network providers and tech companies running in the background, right? So that's kind of what we're doing, is looking to, bring best of breed partners to these solution stacks. There's a lot of these, integrators that are out there nowadays that obviously are starting to pick up the phone and call and reach out, because it's all about the value add. It's all about remaining sticky and that point of differentiation.
Well, I suspect that while there's been a lot of companies that have been hard hit by the pandemic, that you guys are almost like the digital infrastructure companies who saw, a tremendous pull forward in demand because of what was going on with the pandemic. Yours, however, is more, I think, as you hit it nail on the head, is you're going to talk to a lot of these new potential customers about how you can help them safely reopen. And that's just going to open the door for some of the other things that you can do for them.
Yeah, you become, like I said, it's about the value. I mean,
yeah.
I'm a big believer, and obviously as a publicly traded company, it's about revenues and whatnot, but it's about infrastructure. If you don't have the infrastructure to support scale, you're going nowhere, right? It's easy to tell a story. It's very difficult to grow a scalable business, and that's been my specialty, is being able to build that infrastructure from a load component as we grow and evolve, but also too for the customers, it's about being that trusted source. It's about building that relationship and getting your foot in the door, because once you have your foot in the door, you can establish that roadmap, and that roadmap is us solving all of those problems, right? And that's kind of the key, is building the trust, building the roadmap, and now, like we say, it's just about execution and continuing to move forward as these teams reopen, malls reopen, travel reopen. And artificial intelligence is something that people keep hearing over and over. And it's good to see that they're starting to understand it now, because it's about operational efficiencies and profitability.
I think you're 100% correct. But the other thing that, I don't think we can play up enough is, when you started talking early on in this conversation, you're partnered with Amazon Web Services, Apple, and Google. So when you sit back and you think of the diligence that you had to go through to become that partner, that alone speaks volumes, right? I mean, they're
Yeah.
not going to partner with some fly-by-night operation, particularly when there's going to be massive amounts of data involved. So, but let me just ask you a couple quick hits here, Rob. So
Sure.
you're a SaaS company at the heart of it, you said. Longer term, what percentage of the revenue stream do you think is recurring in nature?
Recurring revenue will ultimately be around 85% of our business. As we talked about, we'll do select licensing, but no, this is a full SaaS play. It's all about number of locations. It's about number of, obviously, phobies that are in the field. The rest of it too is we have the Phobie API, Loop API, if you will, that enables us to connect to all the new point of sale systems like Shopify and Vend and others. Obviously, we look at flexibility, agility, scalability, all stems through software, which is an 85% margin, which is obviously very appealing long term. Hardware margins of 45%, but it's really about the back end data management and the data monetization. As we continue to grow, will become a very interesting story for sure.
And you mentioned earlier that you've got some pilot programs that you're hoping to convert to full programs. It makes me think of the balance sheet, cash on the balance sheet. How much runway do you have, roughly, do you think? Is this, are you guys good through the end of the calendar year, or
Yeah.
you might be a victim of your own success?
No, we benefited from, obviously you see where we started last year. I mean, we were 5 cents. I mean, we went on a huge run up to a high of 297 this year with all the momentum and stuff that we're gaining here. And, obviously we benefited from a great deal of the warrants being cashed in. So we're in a very strong financial position right now. There's no need for us to raise money this time to the end of the year. So, for us, we're just now, it's a great position as a startup. Money and runway is always the thing that keeps you
Right.
awake at night and, figuring out how to get to the next month. But no, we've been very blessed this year. And, for us, as you see, I've made some very strategic acquisitions, a few others to come on that as well, actively pursuing that. And it's, we're very fortunate to be in that position now that, it's not about raising capital, it's about execution of business.
So if I can ask this one question, it's kind of the elephant in the room, if you will. I think Jay and I hear what you're saying, and we talk about, the value that's being offered, and you talk about the runway that you have. Yeah, we look at the stock price, something's not connecting here. And I want to, from your perspective, what are investors not realizing with the Loop story?
Yeah, I think, part of it is it's a complex story. I would say some of it, as to your point, the loop-de-loop, if you will.
Right.
There's a multitude of solutions that we've brought. I don't know of any other startup per se that's been, literally trading for 18 months that has 3 fully commercialized products at global scale. So I think a lot of it too.
With the partners you have.
Yeah, well, yeah, for sure. Partners, third-party validation is everything. When you look at the likes of NTT Data, you look at, obviously, as you mentioned, with AWS and others, TELUS, which is the largest telecom in Canada. They just don't put out news announcements and press releases with small startups for something to do. So, third-party validation is everything. Like I said, I don't worry too much about the billboards and whatnot. I'm just focused on trying to refine our messaging so it does click. But more importantly, it's easy to talk the story. For us, it's about proofs in the pudding. We've done a great job of getting the story out there. We're relatively still unknown, obviously, to your point of where we are. We brought on a new vice president of marketing. Spent many years at Epson building their story and exposure. It's got tremendous marketing from engagement and sponsorship level. So for us, that's our focus as we keep bringing on talent. If you saw Tamer Shafiq, our latest our CTO, Tamer came from NTT Data. So, I mean, people just don't leave these giant, secure companies to come to a startup unless there's something here. So all we can do is keep, building the business. I keep building the roadblocks and the pieces of the puzzle to a long-term sustainable business that's set for scale. And eventually the numbers will drive the stock price. And, obviously getting the word out there, if you want visibility better as to who is Loop and what is the value, I think is key here for the remainder of the year.
And for those investors who are, going to be listening to this and kind of doing their homework, some people look for, I don't want to use the word catalyst, but some people look for milestones. Is there any particular milestones that you're looking forward to over the next, 3-6 months?
Yeah, there's at least a dozen. I mean, quite candidly, I have a very talented business development team. We have a very, very relevant technology on many levels, of course, due to the current conditions and digital transformation that's going on. So for us, our pipeline is quite something. Obviously, I can't get into detail around who and when, but I'm looking forward to the remainder of 2021.
And we've got 9 months to go. So that's saying something.
100%. Yeah, we've got, like I said, we're focused now on uplisting, of course, on TSX and NASDAQ. I understand the requirements from a revenue and share price perspective. And with our business development that we have, I'm very, very confident that we'll meet those requirements in the near future.
Excellent. Excellent. Jay, once again, I apologize. You know how excited I get during these conversations. I'm sure you've got at least one question that you want to ask, Rob.
So Rob, I like to let Chris just do his thing in these interviews. You can see he's really, really good at doing this. And this is from his background. So at the beginning, I asked you to explain your business to me like I was a 15-year-old. And I think this interview really helped flush a lot of that out. My market and my clients are financial advisors that build portfolios of, diversified portfolios of investments. Now, being a stock under $5 is not typically something that's going to show up on the radar, but for folks who are putting it on their list to keep an eye on, usually they like to associate it with somebody else. Help me get a handle on who your, 2 or 3 biggest competitors would be, or who you would like to be compared to in the public markets.
Good question.
That's a great question. I get asked that a lot. So that is a great question. Appreciate that. I think there's a few, of course, because kind of how I built this here is I've taken the challenges that exist today and I've built a solution stack that combines all of those needed technologies to come as one. So when I look at, obviously data is very powerful. Data is very, of course, relevant to what we're speaking of here today. You look at a Nielsen, I would say from a data aggregation perspective, I think it was $6.2 billion generated in revenue last year. I would definitely say from a data aggregation that, I would say an Airship or Lava perhaps on the wallet pass technology per se. I think the biggest one where we don't have a competitor is in our Fobi IoT device. Our proprietary solution there, that's why TELUS and NTT and these other companies are flocking to it, because I built in a SIM card module, which gives them, of course, broadband and connectivity, gives them an IoT product to sell through their channel. So we don't have one in that space. I've had other people tell me that Planeteer is one for sure. I've heard that a lot. I'd probably say those are the 3, if that makes sense, and hopefully that gives your viewers some kind of comparison. Another one too that I've had brought to my attention lately, a few different analysts and stuff that I've been interviewed by. Snowflake most definitely is another one about data and artificial intelligence applications. So, we've combined all those, right? That's kind of the crazy thing. And I think that's hard to understand and fathom for a lot of people is how the heck does a small company such as yourself take all of these amazing technologies and, benefits and roll them up into one? And that's what we've done though, right? So it's something that's, for us, very disruptive, as you can see. And it's put us into some very interesting conversations with some of these players. So should be very interesting to see what happens from those.
Well, Rob, I'm glad you shared those. And Jay, I'm glad you asked that question because, for companies that they're hard to put into a box. And I think that describes you guys kind of fairly. Investors are always trying to wrap their heads around how do I value them? And the way you laid that out really lends itself to what we call a sum of the parts valuation.
Yeah, most definitely. I mean, we look at it, the technology has no value unless it solves a problem, but from a, potential acquisition standpoint as well, I know very well where we fit and transform a lot of these companies. And, it should be very interesting to see where things go. But for now, we're just focused on doing what we do and continue building solid fundamentals and core and building the business step by step.
And it sounds like based on your subtleties, we better keep our eyes open for press releases.
Yeah, we've been very active over the last year here. I mean, news is never a challenge for us. For us, it's really trying to give visibility. I spend as much time as I can. I had hundreds of messages on LinkedIn and all these various platforms all day long. And, I do what I can to get back. But it's about building trust and confidence. And for us, I think, like I said, it's all about, as we talk about real time, people just want to understand that, when there is decline or a pullback, why is that? A lot of the new investors today, as you see here with, COVID, people being at home, the numbers of the investment world from 21 to 25 is crazy to see the incline. And these are very unsophisticated investors that, it's more to me online gambling for a lot of them and entertainment. But having as much visibility as we can is always important.
Excellent. Well, Jay, I think at some point we'll have to have Rob back on.
I think we should.
Okay. Excellent. All right, excellent. Rob, thank you so much for your time today. Thank you for explaining to us the Loop story, the Loop opportunity.
Yeah, I really enjoyed it, Rob.
Yeah, thanks for having me, guys. My pleasure.
Important information. The information provided is for educational and informational purposes only and does not constitute investment advice, and it should not be relied on as such. It should not be considered a solicitation to buy or an offer to sell a security, and you should consult your attorney or tax advisor. All information has been obtained from sources believed to be reliable, but its accuracy is not guaranteed. There is no representation or warranty as to the current accuracy, reliability, or completeness of, nor liability for, decisions based on such information, and it should not be relied on as such.